Voldemort commanded the largest dark army Britain had seen in generations. It consisted of hundreds of different kinds of creatures and fighters serving a single master. But no army can function through one person alone. Even the most powerful wizard in history could never personally command every soldier on the battlefield. So how was Voldemort's army actually organized? Who commanded its different branches? Who answered directly to Voldemort? And what did the Dark Lord's military hierarchy actually look like? Today, we are going to reconstruct the most likely chain of command behind Voldemort's army. At the very bottom of Voldemort's military hierarchy stood the ordinary fighting forces. These were the soldiers who were first in line to carry out the Dark Lord's orders on the battlefield. These forces consisted of giants, werewolves, acromantulas, and dementors. Each brought unique strengths to the army. Giants served as living siege weapons, capable of smashing defensive positions. Werewolves specialized in terror and brutal close-quarters assaults. Acromantulas overwhelmed enemies through sheer numbers, while dementors spread fear and despair long before spells were ever exchanged. Alongside these creatures operated the Snatchers. Unlike the creatures, the Snatchers were human followers responsible for enforcing Voldemort's rule across Britain. They hunted Muggleborns, captured fugitives, guarded prisoners, and maintained control over occupied territory. Together, these forces formed the lowest levels of Voldemort's military organization. Armies this large cannot operate without leadership. So who commanded them? Not every branch of Voldemort's army answered directly to the Death Eaters. Several allied forces maintained their own leadership. The werewolves followed Fenrir Greyback. Although never formally accepted as a Death Eater, Greyback controlled Britain's werewolf packs and became Voldemort's primary commander over werewolf operations. He was also the only non-Death Eater permitted to wear Death Eater robes. The Giants appear to have operated in much the same way. Canon identifies a giant named Golgamath as the principal giant leader contracted during Voldemort's recruitment efforts. Rather than commanding every giant individually, Voldemort likely relied upon leaders such as Golgamath to direct their own warriors while remaining loyal to the Dark Lord's overall strategy. The Acromantulas present a more difficult question. No individual commander is ever identified. However, a colony numbering in the hundreds almost certainly possessed some form of internal hierarchy. Whether led by a dominant offspring of Aragog or another senior spider, it is reasonable to assume someone coordinated the colony before ultimately following Voldemort's broader objectives. The Dementors were different. They were not soldiers, nor were they truly subjects. Instead, they fought alongside Voldemort because his victory created a world better suited to their own existence. Rather than being commanded in the traditional sense, they acted as powerful allies aligned with the Dark Lord's cause. The Death Eaters formed the backbone of Voldemort's military. They were more than elite duelists. They acted as officers, assassins, political enforcers, intelligence operatives, and battlefield commanders. Not every Death Eater occupied the same position. Some clearly possessed greater authority than others. Those differences become much clearer when examining Voldemort's highest-ranking followers. Above the ordinary Death Eaters stood a relatively small group of trusted commanders. Bellatrix Lestrange ranked among Voldemort's most loyal followers. She received some of his most important assignments and frequently fought at the center of major operations. Yaxley became responsible for controlling large portions of the Ministry of Magic after Voldemort's return. Antonin Dolohov served as one of Voldemort's most experienced battlefield veterans. Augustus Rookwood supplied valuable intelligence gathered during years inside the Ministry. Travers participated in numerous high-level missions throughout the Second Wizarding War. Lucius Malfoy once occupied this inner circle as one of Voldemort's wealthiest and most politically connected supporters. However, following repeated failures involving the Diary and the Prophecy, Voldemort gradually stripped him of influence. Severus Snape appeared to occupy this level. As headmaster of Hogwarts, Voldemort believed Snape controlled Britain's most important magical institution. From Voldemort's perspective, Snape represented one of his most valuable commanders. One notable absence deserves mention: Barty Crouch Jr. Although he immediately received the Dementor's kiss after Voldemort's resurrection, few followers demonstrated greater loyalty or value. He infiltrated Hogwarts for an entire school year while impersonating Alastor Moody, manipulated the Triwizard Tournament, captured one of the Ministry's greatest Aurors, and successfully delivered Harry Potter to Voldemort. Had he survived, Barty Crouch Jr. would almost certainly have occupied a permanent position within Voldemort's highest command. Every layer of the organization ultimately answered to one individual: Lord Voldemort. Unlike traditional armies, Voldemort ruled without equals. There was no council, no permanent second-in-command, no general capable of overruling his decisions. Every major military objective originated with him. He decided where the army marched, who lived, who died, and which commanders remained in favor. Rather than leading through trust, Voldemort ruled through fear. Success brought temporary praise. Failure often resulted in torture or death. That fear created absolute obedience throughout the organization. From the lowliest Snatcher to Bellatrix Lestrange herself, every branch of Voldemort's army ultimately answered to a single supreme commander. Although many individual positions remain uncertain, the overall structure becomes remarkably clear. At the bottom stood Voldemort's fighting forces. Above them stood specialized leaders responsible for directing individual branches of the army. And above them stood the Death Eaters and Voldemort's trusted inner circle. And above everyone else, Lord Voldemort. It was a military organization built upon absolute authority. Every order flowed downward. Every decision flowed from one man, and for nearly 2 decades. That command structure proved powerful enough to wage war against the entire British wizarding world. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below.